In this demonstration you will create and explore a WPF project. Let's switch to Visual Studio. Here in Visual Studio, let's select from the File menu, New Project. In this dialog, I have selected here already C# so that we see only C# project templates. Now let's search in these templates for WPF. Here you see the template to create a WPF application. Let's select this template and let's click on the Next button. I call the project wiredbraincoffee.customers_app. Let's keep the location and the solution name and let's click on Next. I also keep this .NET version and I click on Create to create the WPF project. Now let's take a look at the project in the Solution Explorer. As you can see, there is a main window SAML file and a main window SAML CS file, which is a so-called code behind file. These two files together define the main window of your WPF application. Then there is also an app.saml file and a corresponding code behind file. These two files define the application object of your WPF application. The application object is created at startup. And when you look into the app.saml file, you can see there is an application root element and the startup URI property is set to main window SAML. This means the application starts the main window when you run this WPF project. There is also an assembly info CS file for assembly attributes. Now let's open the main window SAML file and let's define a button in this file. First, I set the font size of this window to a value of 20. Now in this grid, let's define here a button element and let's set the content of that button to add customer. I close this element and I take here a look at the button in the designer of Visual Studio. You can also view the SAML editor and the designer at once by clicking here either on the vertical or on the horizontal split button. So let's split, for example, vertically, and now you see the SAML document on the right side and the designer on the left side. You can also swap the two if you want. Seeing the designer means that you can see the effects of the properties that you set in SAML. So for example, here on the button, I can set the horizontal alignment property to left. I also set vertical alignment to top, and I give the button a little margin. Now you see the button is in the top left corner of the main window. Besides setting properties on the button, you can also create event handlers for events, like for the click event. So when you define this attribute, Visual Studio suggests here to create a new event handler. I hit Enter to do this. Now you see here button_click. Let's go back to the Solution Explorer and let's open here the code behind file of the main window. In this file, you find the main window class and you see here the generated button_click event handler. Let me show you a little trick how you can give this event handler a custom name from the beginning. So let's remove it again here from the code behind file and let's go back to the SAML file. I remove here again the click attribute and I write again click. Now instead of selecting new event handler, I just write here the name that I want, for example, button@customer_click, and then you right click that name and you select from the context menu Go to Definition. Now you see Visual Studio just created the event handler with that name. Now let's actually do something here. Let's show a message box with the text customer edit. Now let's run the WPF application and let's see if everything works as expected. Here you can see the button, let's click on it, and the message box customer edit comes up. Great, let's close this again. In the next clip, I want to show you a bit more how this SAML document and this code behind file are actually glued together.